Presentar el senyor Stiglitz és una de les tasques més difícils que he hagut de fer en la meva curta carrera, curta però la meva carrera. Normalment el que faig és documentar-me per mitjà del Google i avui ho he intentat, però m'han sortit tantes pàgines web vinculades al senyor Stiglitz que ha estat una tasca pràcticament impossible. Vaig demanar ajuda a un professor de la facultat de la UAB, que em donava economia a la meva carrera de periodisme, i em va explicar moltes coses al senyor Stiglitz. D'aquestes, resumiré les que jo he considerat més importants i per no deixar-me cap les llegiré. El senyor Joseph Stiglitz és un economista nord-americà, és conegut per la seva visió de la globalització i per la seva opinió del mercat lliure, el qual ell titlla de fonamentalistes de lliure mercat. Ha format part de la plantilla del president Clinton i també ha format part del gabinet d'opinió com a ideòleg del programa econòmic del nostre actual president, el senyor Zapatero. L'any 2000 va fundar la Iniciativa pel Diàleg Polític, un centre de think tanks que, per a aquelles persones que ho desconeguin, és una mena d'empresa que estudia l'opinió pública per després incidir en aquells temes que creu aquesta empresa oportú incidir, ja sigui per temes polítics, econòmics o socials, el que sigui. Ha escrit nombrosos llibres i, evidentment, també ha guanyat nombrosos premis. Potser el més destacat ha estat el Premi Nobel d'Economia de l'any 2001. És un plaer i un luxe per mi, com a periodista, presentar-los avui el nostre convidat estrella, el senyor Joseph Stiglitz.
Gràcies. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here to talk about what clearly is one of the most interesting, is maybe not the right word, issues, the global economic crisis. This is clearly the worst crisis that we've had in 75 years. It's a crisis that has taught us many lessons. I'm not sure we've learned all those lessons yet. What I want to do this afternoon is to first describe where we are in the crisis. What is the likelihood, the prospects for the next year or 2 years. Then I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the question of how do we get in the crisis. What were the mistakes that we made, and who made the mistakes? Who's to blame, to put it in another way? And then finally, I want to spend a few minutes talking about what is the way forward. What are some of the things that we ought to be focusing on today as we try to restore the economy to robust growth, and as we try to think about some of the many long-run problems that the world faces today. Well, let me begin by making to use an expression, an American expression, I hope it's clear, we are not out of the woods. That is to say, we are not anywhere near on the way to a strong recovery. Of course, the world has pulled back from the brink that it was in September of 2008. But I worry that the prospects are that the growth that we've been seeing, as weak as it's been in Europe, though it's been somewhat stronger in the United States, will slow down towards the end of the year or early next year. And I also worry that we have not yet taken on board fully the lessons of this crisis. So let me describe a little bit in more detail where we are right now. And I'll begin by talking about the United States because in a way, this crisis has very much a Made in USA label on it. It's not our proudest product, but it is clearly a crisis that was created in the United States. We exported our toxic mortgages. I usually tell my European audiences to thank them for buying so many of our toxic mortgages. About 40% of all our toxic mortgages we sold to Europe. And if you had not bought so many of them, the downturn in the United States would be much worse. So we were shared our problems with you. It was a magnanimous gift that we gave you. But not only did we share the toxic mortgages, we also shared the recession. So to understand the recession, I think you have to go back to focus first on the United States, and then I'll talk about Europe and the rest of the world. Well, in the United States, the crisis has really unfolded very much as it was expected. The third and fourth quarters of the United States, growth was strong. But it's interesting to note that the official committee, there's an academic committee of the National Bureau of Economic Research that dates when a recession is over. And even though the growth was strong in the third and fourth quarters of 2009, they have not been willing to say the recession is over because they still see, as I do, enough uncertainty that there is a real prospect of a double dip. The best way of seeing the weaknesses in the economy are in the labor market. And there's a real weakness in job recovery. A few weeks ago, there was a lot of excitement that for the first time since the recession began in 2007, we had some job creation. In the first 3 months of this year, we created 150,000 jobs, a little more than 150,000 jobs. And that's obviously a lot better than a year ago when we were destroying jobs at the rate of more than 750,000 a month. So I don't want to say it's not there. The glass is a little full, not completely empty. But if you look at the numbers, about a third of them were temporary jobs, mostly related to the process that every 10 years we count the number of Americans, and we actually go around and have people count everybody. And that created 50,000 jobs. So the private sector actually wasn't creating very many jobs. The number of jobs created was only about 1% of the number of people looking for a job. So unless we do better, it will take years and years before we get to full employment. And actually, the overall forecast is, even the optimists think, it will be the middle of the decade before we are back to normal. And as I think I'll explain later, I think that's optimistic. To put it another way, every month we need to create something like 125,000 jobs for the new entrants in the labor force. And we only created 50,000. So the job deficit, the deficit between the number of jobs we need to create and the number of jobs we created, actually increased so far in this year. More generally, the labor market remains grim. The average duration of unemployment is at a record level. Normally in the United States, unemployment is very short term. 40% of those unemployed are now long-term. 1 out of 6 Americans who want a full-time job can't get one.